What's up everyone, welcome back to another video. This one we're going to start to delve into a series of videos exploring what I want to do in the future, and that is to go off grid. So I'm just going to break it down very basically what I'm going to be looking at, and this is kind of an introduction to that. And as I go along, I'll do different videos on different aspects of it till we've got a whole plan together, at which point we'll be able to act on it and you'll be able to follow us through the entire journey. So rather than just waiting till we've got a homestead and say, oh, this is how we did it in a 1 hour quick flash forward video, you're going to be with me every step of the way, including planning. So things like this, obviously I've already been looking at it because it was something we were looking at last year. The plan is to be off grid by in 2026, not by 2026. That doesn't give me enough time, nowhere near, but we're in this current house at the moment for a year, so hopefully come a year's time we will be on the land living off grid. And it sounds like a massive achievement. Like, even when I say it out loud, I think, is this going to be possible? Because I don't have a massive budget for this. This isn't something where I've got loads of savings already saved up. I haven't got the sale of a house or anything like that. I'm in rented accommodation. Both me and my partner are working full time. We are saving, of course, but we have kids, we have bills. You know what the cost of living's like in this country. So it's not going to be an easy task. Before we get further into the video, just want to take a quick few seconds to thank everybody that has supported this channel from day one. We've gone from 0 to 10,000 in less than a year. It's been absolutely amazing, and thank you for the continued support helping to share this and grow the channel. You can do your bit by just hitting like on this video, hitting subscribe if you're new to the channel, and sharing the content out there with other people and spreading the message of prepping. There's loads of other ways to support the channel, including my favourite, which is Patreon, which gives me a bit of a platform to say things I couldn't usually say on here. But loads of different ways to support the channel, and the links are in every single video. Once again, thank you very much for everything you're already doing for me. I really do appreciate it. Now, back to the video. So obviously stage one is getting money together. So it's about frugal living, saving as much as we can, and that will hopefully come into fruition as we move along and get closer to the time. The key elements we're going to be looking at for living off grid, of course, are land. That's the key. Gotta have the land, gotta have somewhere to do it. Some form of shelter. People do it in tents, people do it in caravans, people build their own houses. So shelter or housing. Then water supply. Are we going to get somewhere that's got a fresh river, a spring, anything like that? Can we create a borehole? We don't know yet. Power supply. Obviously, we've got lots of help on this channel when it comes to stuff like that, and we'll be looking at what we can do power supply wise. Waste management is a key that people often forget, and it's something you've really got to think about. If you're getting something like a septic tank installed, that's a massive job, and there's ongoing cost of emptying that. Food production, so eating, living off the land, whether we're going to have animals or not, and then of course heating and cooking. Essential. So we're going to look at them very, very surface level at the moment, because these are just ideas floating around my head, and what I'm hoping comes from this series is the awesome help I've had already off this community. I'm not talking about funds wise, I'm talking about ideas wise. You guys are absolutely awesome when it comes to making suggestions, and with this subject I'm completely new and I'm an open book. So please, anything you want to comment about, anything you've got ideas about, hopefully constructive comments, please pop them in below. So the first one we said was land. So land across the UK, it's not a cheap thing anyway. But the further north you go, the cheaper it seems to get. Now, I'm not tied into being up in the Highlands of Scotland. I still have commitments, family commitments down in the northwest. So depending on where I can get the land, I'm quite an open book with that. If it's up near Scotland, if it's near her family, that's a bonus. If it's down here, if it's further south than we are now, it's still closer to my family, it's still good. It's got to come down to availability and price. So land, it's just going to be one of those things that I've got to keep my eye on the market, keep an eye on what's available, and save up enough money to be able to go move on that. Because I've seen lots of lands, not lots of lands, but land lots for sale, and it was £10,000 for this like 2-acre plot thing, and it had a river at the end of it, and it came with the water and fishing rights for that river as well. Absolute steal. 10,000 before I could email it, before I could think who could I tap up and like get this sorted, it was already gone. So it's going to be a struggle on the land front until I've got the money in the bank, which it's not going to be anytime soon. When we're looking for land, we're going to be looking for remote areas, like in Scotland, not really the Highlands. It's a bit too harsh for what we want to do at first, and potentially we would even look at some brownfield sites, things like that, depending on what's available. There's always ways and means, despite the land itself underneath might have had chemicals on. If it was an old factory, everything could be built up into raised planters if the land was too good to pass up. There's also options of crofting land. So land crofts are basically like rentals from farmers. You might have a couple of fields and you can do your stuff on there. There's different covenants potentially on there and stipulations, so you've got to look into that. Land auctions are still a thing, so you could look for that. I'm not sure how few and far between they come and how competitive it is. Again, I feel like you'd have to have the money in the bank ready to go for that. There's no mortgage involved with this. I've got to be able to acquire this land outright, or rent, hire the land, a long-term lease, anything like that. A farm that maybe has scrap land that's literally doing nothing, and he can earn a small passive income letting me have a little homestead there. That would be awesome. So there's lots of different options. I've looked at the Woodland Trust and rewilding initiatives as well. Again, they come with a lot of covenants and they come with a lot of rules and stipulations, so you've got to keep an eye to the ground and hopefully something will come up. My ideal, genuinely, till I've got enough money behind me, would to be able to find somewhere to lease in a long-term lease with a farmer. A bit of land that he can't do crops on, or he can't raise his cattle on, or whatever it is. A scrap of land that's by the river that's not really suitable for anything that he needs it for, but I could definitely do something with it. That would be the ideal in the immediate. Hopefully I get enough money behind me for that not to be an issue. So looking for land is obviously one of the biggest priorities in this whole thing, but having the money behind you to do that is going to be the biggest challenge as well. Shelter options. So when I said people have done it in yurts and tents, it was, you know, surprising enough that Mrs. Urban Prepper was on board for this in the first place without telling her she's going to live in a yurt. That's out. We will get away with a static. She doesn't mind that, static caravan. If I did that, I would have to get a small container or storage unit to go with it to store all my stuff, because you don't get much room in that kind of caravan thing. And if it was a small shipping container, that would then be technically the start of what I want to eventually do, which is a shipping container building. I've done joinery in the past. I can do most of the first and second fix stuff that I would need to do to line it, to everything like that. So the work would be pretty much me. Any volunteers that are going to come and help, any friends, family, stuff like that, obviously would all be appreciated. But this is going to be a long, slow process of building what we want. I've made designs for a shipping container house. We'll go into that in a separate video when we delve deeper into each subject. So initially, static caravan, or even just a normal caravan that's a decent size with a storage unit. The converted shipping container, if you could get one of those to start with, you could get one that's already lined, like an office building, stuff like that. Timber cabin is kind of an idyllic look that I'd like, even if it was round a shipping container. But you could build a timber cabin. I'm not sure about the warmth and the stability in this country, but you know, I'm sure there's ways and means, but very expensive to actually do once you add it all up. The earth chip and straw bale buildings, as much as I've seen them and they look absolutely awesome. I saw a Grand Designs one where it was the straw and all its walls were this thick and it was proper plastered and stuff like that. I see too many potential flaws. If there is a breakage and damp gets in, you're not losing a little section or a brick, or doing a damp course, you are losing a wall. You've got to pull the whole thing out. I really don't see that as my permanent solution. And of course, you've got the tiny home options, which is like the shepherd huts and stuff like that. That's the kind of shelter things we're looking at the moment, with the eventual grand design of becoming this whole container home. Water supply, which I mentioned as the number 3. Obviously, first choice, first port of call will be a spring or a stream. Ideally, some sort of small stream or river, because that's not only water supply, but helps us out when we talk about power. So that would be the ideal. That would be my first choice. If I could get some of that on the edge or just inside the land or something like that, that would be my ideal. Of course, being preppers, rainwater harvesting will be a must. We'll be doing that anyway. Even if I have a small stream, I will still be doing rainwater harvesting. So that will be a given no matter what. And the roofs and the designs of the shipping containers that I do will favour that, with long runoffs for this water catchment. And of course, the option of a borehole, it does come with quite an expense, and it can be hit and miss, literally. So you could spend all the money to do a borehole and it might not work. I know people have hit water, but it's been salt water. So it depends where you are. It depends. There's lots of risks involved with that, and it's a big money investment. So I don't see that one as being the option, like kind of a well thing, unless there's already one on the property. You never know. So water is an absolute must, and when I'm looking at land, that's going to be one of the key things I'm going to be thinking about the whole time. I don't want to sustain it purely just off rainwater catchment. If we have a really dry season, I don't want to be in that situation. Fourth one was, of course, power. And I've got lots of friends on this channel and fellow YouTubers that are great with solar, who have already said they will help me out. I'm Brian! So solar panels are going to be a given. Now, if it is Scotland, solar probably is not all year round completely reliable, but I think it's the case of 2 is 1, 1 is none. So I'm going to be looking at all of the forms of power I can possibly manipulate. So the minimum I'm going to have is solar and wind. With a small turbine, they start at about £1,000, so it's an investment, but it's a good source of power when it's windy and it's not sunny. It's just another option. Now, the big one I want for this is hydro. I know somebody that's already done this project. They've got a small hydro generator on a small stream that is just 24/7 ticking over. It's not giving you loads of power, but it's all the time. So combine these 3 with a good amount of storage batteries, and I think power is more than sorted. Ideally, with money in my favour, I'll be getting a couple of diesel generators as backups, just because that's what we do. Now, the 5th one I mentioned was a shitty subject. It was waste management. Of course, the cheap option straight away is going to be composting toilets. If it's a static caravan, it might already have a chemical toilet, but you've got to think of disposal of that. So please consider that. I don't want to be driving miles every time I need to empty the toilet. Now, a composting toilet, like a long drop, is super easy, no plumbing, DIY. It's very, very low cost. And if you do it right, it can be quite good. And I think doing a long drop toilet would be my first go-to. That would be the first thing I'll be doing on site. If I can put something else in the future, bonus. But right now, long drop would be the first thing I'd be looking to put on site. And yeah, that's the one thing. Separating fluid from solid waste as well, so it can actually be used. And I mentioned, of course, a septic tank. Having something like that installed for a permanent dwelling is probably the ideal. especially if there's a service that comes and empties it every so often. It's not a massive cost, it's not too bad. I think if we were living there for comfort, for family comfort, I think a septic tank would be something I'd look at during peace times. As soon as it went past peace times, we'd be stopping filling that tank that nobody's ever going to empty, and we'd go on to back onto long drop and latrines. So waste management, always keep your mind on that. Don't forget how much water you use as well, like grey water. So all of that ties in nicely with the water supply. And speaking of poop, number 6, of course, fertilizer, growing our own food. Going to be looking at ideally raised beds and things like that, and polytunnels. Not really ploughing the fields, something much more manageable, to the point where if I wasn't there, kids and the missus can all be involved. If there's enough land and it's viable, then maybe we'll plant stuff as well along the grounds, doing stuff like that. But I like the idea of raised beds. I like the idea of polytunnels and a controlled environment, especially the further north we go. If we can control that temperature, we can control what we're growing, then it gives us much more variation, and we're not as succumbed to the weather that we would be if we were just growing out in the open. I'll still grow stuff wild as well, purely because we can. It would be great to experiment with stuff like that. Depending on the location, foraging is always an option. So I would be looking at, if we do have, say it's a forestry that we take a section of, I'd definitely be looking at what's there, what could be foraged, only part foraged, so it's got plenty of life to grow back and we can take from that yield year on year. So foraging is always going to be a good option. Livestock, it's a given that chickens and potentially goats would be that. That's one thing we'll be definitely getting. Larger livestock, maybe in the long term, we'll see how we get on with that. I am very interested in the whole keeping bees for honey. The missus is allergic to them, so it might be a hard sell, but leave that one with me. But I'd love to have my own honey on tap. That would be excellent as well. So lots of living off the land. It's not going to be completely living off the land at this stage, definitely not in peace times. We'll still go and do a monthly shop, we'll still stock up on our long-term food supplies, start doing a lot of canning, stockpiling stuff that way. Heating and cooking was the last point I made. Heating is a key, and cooking, obviously we want to cook the food. So what does that mean? What does that mean? That means becoming a real prepper. It means getting a log burner. Yay! It's probably one of the first things I'm going to do. We might not have furniture. The first thing I'm going to do once we start building is get a log burner, so you can all stop giving me stick for it. Obviously there's loads of different methods we can do with this. I've really wanted to experiment with solar ovens and solar cooking, so I'll probably get a chance to do that. And of course, we've got the great outdoors right on our doorstep, so we can always cook on fires, rocket stoves, outdoor grills, anything like that. So there's loads of options open to us, but I really want to get a full wood burning stove, not just a little stove. I'm talking about an Aga, an old school big fireplace that doesn't just cook your food, it heats the entire house, heats your hot water, the lot. That's the ambition, and that's the goal for that side of things. So the budget on this is not fixed yet. It's not at a point yet. Do I think I could do it a lot cheaper than most? Yeah, I think I could do a lot of work. I think we could. It's not loads of stuff we need doing straight away. We could get in there in a static. You could live in a static caravan for a length of time, and I can do projects over time. This is going to be the benefit of this. This is not going to have to be one big hit and everything gets done overnight. But I asked ChatGPT to estimate figures for these kind of categories and see what it comes up with for building this on a realistic budget. These are the figures it came up with. Cheap land, 1 to 5 acres, estimated cost 10 to 30,000. It's definitely talking about Scotland and the remote areas there, because you wouldn't even touch the sides if you were near where I am for 30,000. You wouldn't even get close to that. So cheap land, they're obviously thinking the same sort of things as me. Shelter, which could be a caravan all the way up to a full container sort of thing, that's estimated between 2,000 and 10,000. The lower end, definitely, I think I could do that for. Water system, 500 to 2,000. Solar and battery setup, 1,500 to 4,000. Sure, we can get the lads together to do that for a lot less. Compost toilet / grey water system, 500 to 1,500. Stove and heating, 300 to 1,000. Probably the top end of that one because I want the good one. And polytunnel garden setup, 300 to 1,000, giving a total ballpark estimate of low end 15,000, top end 50,000, which even at 50,000 to live off grid, absolute bargain. I don't have 50,000. There's no chance I'm going to save that in a year. Just need to get that land across the mark, and that would be the key thing. So that's where we're at. We're starting at the very bottom. As I plan, I'll release videos along the way. If you want to see them, let me know if you'd like the progress or you're just not interested until I make the move. Love your help with this one. Thanks for watching the video, guys, and I'll see you in another one really soon. Goodbye.